going. We're live on the satellite. All right, Chief. We're looking good so far. We got some good stuff to talk about. So, any streamers that are watching early, we've got a little over 6 minutes before we start the radio portion of the show on satellite radio. So it should be a good show. We got a lot to talk about, and there is a lot of stuff going on in the news. And we have the doctor. We do have the doctor in the house, and he's in high demand, as you can tell by his backdrop. Look at all those screens and stuff. Yes. Oh, it should be a good show. So everything's still looking good for you going to a SHOT Show, Chief?
Yeah, it's really just right around the corner. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to catching up with everybody. You're
who is that? How did he get in here? The Chief's looking like it's Danny King. Have you met Danny King before, Chief?
Yeah, we've been on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you trading crypto back there, or is that your newsroom, Chief?
That's not directed to me, Chief.
Well, actually, Danny, my home internet went out, and so I'm at my church's basement. So I brought the green screen, and instead of looking at concrete wall, this is
nice.
He's being serious too. Yes.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. My internet has been horrible, and I pay $140 a month.
Wow.
I've loved Starlink. It's been very reliable, but it just crapped out, and they're going to send me a whole new unit, so I'm going to be out for about a week. So I'm back on the 13th ship with Lance, wow. I think, and so I'll be back in the basement.
You'll be back in the basement.
But I had to plow through 5 inches of wet snow to get here today.
5 inches.
Yeah. I just want you to know how dedicated I am to this.
I do appreciate it. There are guys who would have said, I can't do it. Internet's out.
Well,
there's snow on the ground.
If I'd known Danny was going to be here, I would have called it sick.
I just got back from the dentist's office, the vet's office 10 minutes ago. So
I didn't even know if Danny was going to be able to make it or not, but he did send me a notice. I don't know if it was yesterday or last night or what. He said, look, if anybody cancels, let me know. And I don't have a cancel, but I do know that I had it. I just had one person for today, and I thought, it's always good to have backup just in case something happens, and it makes for a better show, So
yeah, you and Danny could have run this thing without me for sure. So
we just would have had the eye candy.
But this week I just checked in to see who was on the show this week. We had company in a construction project at the house, so I didn't get to watch much of the shows. But man, what a lineup you had with all of the really deep topics to talk about. So
yesterday,
I hope you had a good people with
Clean and
people with and Scott, I think, was that Monday or Tuesday anyway.
Scott was Monday right after Venezuela. Yeah.
So what a great commentator, somebody that's been in special ops like that, and Von Clean with his international legal military background, and Travis with all of that stuff to rant about.
And then Jeff Nicholas, he is, he's got a former Black Hawk pilot, and part of the movie, Black Hawk Down was based off of him, and it was his unit, the 160th, that actually did the stuff in Venezuela. Yeah, he was proud that day, So yeah, a lot of really interesting stuff, and great talent on the show. So yeah, I'm very fortunate. So.
Yeah, and that interesting background on Somalia. He probably has some commentations about that international situation.
Probably.
So is Danny going to be
at SHOT Show? He lives in the area, so I don't know. I'm seeing a head shaking.
Nah, you know what I mean. I'm not a hunterman. I guess you call them hunters. I'm not a hunter. Yeah, and I've been to the SHOT Show many times, and it's just, how many times can I look at an AR platform or vests or whatever it is? So it's all the same to me.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a little thing, I think, at Jimmy Borton's place, and hopefully, if we do that, Danny will be able to make that one. So,
I thought we were meeting at Danny's place.
No.
I like the sound of that, though.
Yeah, no, let's end it right here and be definitive. No.
All right, so
all right,
people
well, you
watching
think
the
about
show,
it.
just to get people used to how we do things, we have a countdown clock. It's primarily a radio show. We're on the internet, TV, podcast, all different platforms, but primarily radio, which means we have to run off of a radio clock, and that is behind me. And we have 44 seconds till that's our countdown timer till we go live on the show. So we're getting ready to go live on satellite radio, and we'll have a few commercial breaks. And we actually will be doing a Gulls gift card giveaway. If we have enough entries, we'll give that away too. It's a $50 Gulls gift card giveaway. Exciting stuff. So stay tuned for that. And guys, we're about 20 seconds out. I'm going to start the music. If you guys are ready, let's get ready to rock and roll. Here we go. All right, guys, and welcome to Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com. My name is Chip DeVlock, and I'm your host, and we're a group of law enforcement professionals that talk about today's news and issues, but we do it from a law enforcement perspective. And let me introduce the crew. Guys, if you don't mind waiting for the video portion of our show, he's back, Dr. Joel Schultz, retired police chief. Thanks so much for being back on the show. We appreciate it. And also, yes, Danny King, crowd favorite. And, we haven't seen Danny in a little while. He's still there, and he's still, he does a lot of work with Critical Incident Review with Jamie Borden as well. And you've also got your own site as well. And what is the name of that? Is it American Patrolman? What is that, Danny?
It's American Patrolman. The site's temporarily down. We're doing some updates and changes some formats, but you'll be able to find me there.
All right. Change is always good. So thanks for being back on the show, Danny. Hey, and a shout out to our sponsors. Please support our sponsors, guys. They go to great lengths to bring this quality content to you. We've got our title sponsor, Gulls at Gulls.com. We also have CompliantTechnologies.com, our satellite sponsor, AeroPrecisionUSA.com, our arms sponsor. We have Gunlearn.com, MyMedicare.live, Safeguard Recruiting, our streaming sponsor. Thanks to them, we're streaming to over 1 million followers right now during the live show. And also TwoBells.com. They built our new online store at LeoRoundtable.com. And also FishOrlandoBass.com. Zach has got a bass fishing charter in Orlando. Next time you go into Orlando, hook up with Zach. You can either, here's your choices, bass fishing on a bass fishing charter or hunting the wild Florida alligator. It's catch, it's not kill, it's not release, it's relocate, Danny. So you can catch and relocate the wild Florida alligator. It's pretty cool, huh? I mean, only in Florida, right? so
that is a Florida thing for sure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. A shout out to Brian Burns for the Tampa Free Press. Thanks for carrying our content, Brian. Also, Ray Dietrich with formerlawman.com and Travis Yates, our very own from lawofficer.com. Thanks to all those entities for helping make the show happen. And now, what in the world are we going to be talking about today? Guys, we really don't have a significant Venezuela update, so we're going to bypass that, but that's fine because we've just got so much stuff involving Minneapolis and Portland. And so I've got a bunch of stuff going on, but basically it is ICE shootings in Minneapolis and in Portland that we're going to be covering. And yeah, if you didn't know, yesterday there was a shooting of a man and a woman in a vehicle trying to run over, more ICE agents, and they got taken out. They survived, from what I understand. We're going to be talking about that first. We've also got Christopher Taylor. We've got, he's been reinstated as a police officer and his license as well. We're going to talk briefly about that. Domestic violence call left a civilian and 3 Rochester officers injured and a suspect dead in a shootout. There's a lot going on in that one. And then Henderson officers, they shoot a suspect who stole a front loader and he tried to run over police vehicles. That's interesting. We've got 10 Florida. This makes us Florida people look bad, but it is firefighters. So what do you expect? 10 Florida first responders. And, they don't want to throw firefighters under the bus, so they just say first responders. So they kind of throw in cops, everybody into that, right? but they're firefighters, and they're fired. 4 were charged criminally after a 19-year-old was whipped with his own belt and waterboarded outside the fire station. Hey, it's the way they roll. And then we got NYPD officers fatally shot an armed man with a box cutter during a domestic violence call. Judge rejects the Democrats' lawsuit. Remember that Alcatraz thing, the alligator Alcatraz in Florida? I know it's another Florida thing making us all look bad, but the Dems wanted to get in and do inspections and all this stuff. Well, guess what? That's not going to work out. The judge said no. Then Monterey County deputy shot an armed man through a windshield. So that's what we have. So if you guys are ready, let's start off with the deep one involving ICE shootings in Minneapolis and now in Portland. And hey, it may not be over yet. We still have these wackadoos out there, but these stories are taken from realclearpolitics.com, rvmnews.com, and also newsbreak.com. So I decided to start off with Tim Walz. You guys may remember that after the initial shooting, we have Walz just being extremely critical, the governor of Minnesota. And then we've got Mayor Jacob Frey weighing in on it. He's the mayor of Minneapolis. And then, of course, we've got the police chief weighing in as well. O'Hara, I think is his name, Brian O'Hara. And extremely critical. And they've automatically and prematurely condemned the officer, given reasons for, him doing what he did. He just wants, I think Jacob Frey said it was like an authoritative thing. He just wanted to, carry a gun and show his authority and shoot somebody. So Governor Tim Walz is now saying that he wants the feds, because they're doing the investigation and it was a federal thing. He wants them to allow Minnesota to participate in the investigation with resources. He wants to be in the know, but he wants to have some control over this. And you got to understand that Governor Tim Walz, who formerly was running, on the ticket, with Kamala Harris, he's in a world of hurt right now with all the billions and multiple billions of dollars in fraud that's been going on in that state. He's under the microscope. So anything like this comes along is a godsend for him to be able to try to get in the limelight and look good, right? And so, yeah, he wants them to allow him to get involved in this. Like, that's going to happen. And then we have our next title. ICE agent said, "I do not care," when the doctor tried to help Renee Nicole Good, who's the bad girl that ended up getting shot and killed by the ICE agent. So Tim Walz he's changed the narrative a little bit, because now there's got videos that are conclusively showing the officer getting hit and dragged backwards before he shoots her. And now he's saying that that an ICE agent basically refused to allow a doctor to provide medical aid to the woman who was fatally shot in that incident. And he said it was chilling. And speaking publicly about the incident, Walz, the governor, Tim Walz, goes on to say that he personally witnessed a medical professional identify themselves at the scene and request permission to help Renee Nicole Good, who had been shot during the operation in South Minneapolis. Now, he said he personally witnessed that, which we all know is just BS, because he wasn't there on the scene to personally witness anything. I doubt that this is true in any way, shape, or form. But let me continue. It gets better. He said, "I saw an individual at the scene identify themselves as medical personnel and asked to provide aid. And an ICE agent said, 'I do not care.' That lack of humanity was chilling to me," is what Tim Walz said. But that's all he says. It doesn't say whether he said he was there, but we know he wasn't. And it doesn't say whether this person really was someone with medical capabilities or not. We don't, I heard that there were 3 headshots, so I don't know why it would have mattered, anyhow. We don't know if the person said, "Hey, I want to provide help to the victim," and the guy and the ICE agent said, "I don't care." Like, I don't care. Go ahead. So there's so many things left out here, but I don't trust anything that comes out of Tim Walz's mouth, because he's already been lying so much about what's going on in Minneapolis and with the state of Minnesota and all the Somali fraud that's been going on. And let's just jump down. Then we've got Vance: corporate media endangers law enforcement by lying about this attack on ICE in Minneapolis. So JD Vance is weighing in, saying the shooting and killing of American woman in Minneapolis during the event. He announced the administration is creating a new assistant attorney general to post an investigative welfare fraud nationwide. So this is taking the attention off of Minnesota. He said that the way that the media by and large has reported the story has been an absolute disgrace. It puts law enforcement officers at risk every single day, because everybody thinks the cops are the bad guys, right? And he's saying this during a White House press briefing. Goes on to say that what the headline leaves out is the fact that every ICE officer nearly had his life ended. Well, I'm sorry, the very ICE officer, the one involved in the shooting in Minneapolis, nearly had his life ended by being run over by a car 6 months ago. He had 33 stitches in his leg, which I was not aware of. And then he says, you think it might be a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with a vehicle. And then he said, what the headline leaves out is that the woman was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation in the United States of America. The headline also leaves out that the woman was part of a broader left-wing network to attack, dox, assault, and make it impossible for officers to do their job. Then we got Greg Gutfeld weighing in, talking about, you know, the narrative that the media is focusing on individual highlights instead of like what preceded that, like what caused things to happen. And also talks about the fact that we've got Twitter and that's helping get out the right information. And then finally, 2 people shot by Border Patrol agents in Portland. If this wasn't enough, now in Portland, it happens again. We have 2 people shot by federal agents in Portland. The Department of Homeland Security and the shooting involved Customs and Border Patrol agents. 2 people, a man and a woman, were wounded and hospitalized, according to Portland Police Chief Bob Day. And he said this at a news conference on Thursday night. Their conditions, they say, are unknown. Names have not been released. And the PCUN farm workers, they are active in this because they support immigrants and Latinos in the community. And they said that Border Patrol agents stopped the car searching for a Venezuelan they claim was it was in the country illegally, and then part of the Tren de Agua gang, and said that the agents identified themselves. The driver weaponized his vehicle and attempted to run over the law enforcement agents and fearing for their lives and safety. An officer fired a defensive shot, and the guy drove off with his passenger. And at 2:18 p.m., in the Hazelwood neighborhood in East Portland, a police officer responded to the 911 call. They confirmed agents were involved. 6 minutes later, there's another 911 call 3 miles away. Yeah, the people in the car, they ended up both being shot, had to go to the hospital. And so that's the way that went down. We've got a minute left, so whatever we start, we'll continue after the commercial break. But Danny, you want to start us off on this one?
Yeah, so if we're talking about the rhetoric or the statements that have been made by the state of Minnesota already, right? I'm sure that the FBI or the local agents probably would not have minded them taking part in the investigation, but they probably didn't make that decision. It probably came from much higher, and because the politics kicked in. But one of the things that you have to understand is that people feds and locals are generally distrustful of each other as it is, right? You're not going to get a tremendous amount of cooperation from the feds in one of their investigations as a local cop. I've tried it before. It just didn't work out. It took a lot of politic, and so I'm not at all surprised here.
Well, perfect timing, Danny. Commercial break, guys. Stick with us. It's going to get really, really good. A lot of new information coming out. We'll be right back. All right, guys, it's time to talk about our title sponsor, Galls at Galls.com. And, you know, as police officers, we buy a lot of gear, right? And then when you throw the online option, it's like it's limitless, right? But look, here's what's really important. I want to remind everybody about it, supporting the companies that actually support law enforcement. And I don't know of a company that does that better than Galls at Galls.com. And even their motto is proud to serve those who serve, which of course they do in spectacular fashion. And not only that, they walk the talk. They support dozens of focus organizations like this radio show. So when you're looking for gear, please support our title sponsor by going to Galls at Galls.com. And they're going to do you one better for the loyal listeners of the show. They've reactivated a radio code. It's Radio 15. That'll get you 15% off your next purchase at Galls.com. So again, Radio 15. Type that in order to get 15% off your next purchase. And we thank you in advance. And it helps let them know that people that watch the show are actually supporting Galls and that it's worth, you know, investing and supporting us. And they have gift cards. Hook up your family, friends, and loved ones with a new Galls gift card, and they will be your new best friends. Again, that is Galls.com. Now it's time to talk about Compliant Technologies at CompliantTechnologies.com. And they're committed to providing non-lethal solutions to help officers gain the upper hand safely and rapidly in a humane, low-optics manner, utilizing what they're called their CD3. It stands for Conductive Distraction and De-escalation Technology. Their flagship product, we all know by now, is called the Glove. It's helped officers not only tens of thousands of times, but over 250,000 times with absolutely no injuries. You heard that correctly. I said no injuries. The Glove has actually achieved non-lethal status in an arena that predominantly can only offer less lethal results. And when it comes to weapons retention, transitioning to a sidearm or conductive energy weapon, the Glove at CompliantTechnologies.com, they virtually eliminated weapons confusion. So stay ahead of the game. with Compliant Technologies and the revolutionary CD3 that hundreds of agencies have already turned to nationwide. And friends, take it from me, when it comes to safety, this is one of the most common sense, hands-on solutions that's ever come along. So go to complianttechnologies.com today and tell them that Chip sent you. Again, that is complianttechnologies.com. Make sure you watch the cool videos as well. And we got 2 minutes, guys, before we come back to the radio portion of the show. I think we're off to a good start. So, Chief, I'm sorry, Danny did not give you an opportunity to get started on the topic, but there will be plenty of time to come.
No, I saw a 3-second gap there. I could have got something in.
Oh.
So it looks like Blessings and Happiness says ICE needs to be abolished. Blessing, type in why you think ICE needs to be abolished. I'm curious.
Oh, okay. I do see that. Yeah. Blessings and Happiness, ICE needs to be abolished. Yeah. I would love to hear that too. Blessings and Happiness on Facebook.
Yeah. I'm
Justify your
confused.
position.
Years ago, there was like Customs or Border Patrol and maybe ICE, but the proliferation of all these different government bodies, I can't even keep track of them. HSI, ICE,
Homeland Security.
All the ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They've consolidated, but there's been a lot of moving parts. So John Spalding,
but it's great to have some
causing these problems. Yep. And Danny,
I appreciate having viewers that have some dissenting views. So that's great to have a little diversity in the audience.
Yeah, probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me is I used to teach use of force, and you would get people from BLM in there and that have dissenting views, and you can find plenty of dissenting views on Facebook, and you understand what the arguments are vast majority of the time, what issues people have, and if you just explain to them, a lot of times they'll take it under consideration. So,
well, guys, 7 seconds back to radio. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip DeBlock, and I'm your host. We're joined by Chief Joel Schultz and also Officer Danny King. Guys, it's an amazing topic. We're talking about the shooting in Minneapolis and then the one that happened yesterday in Portland. We do have some commentary. We're streaming to over 1 million followers right now during the live show. And yeah, we've gotten a lot of commentary. And there was an interesting one about Blessings and Happiness, who is on Facebook saying that ICE needs to be abolished. But when we asked them to support that argument, silence, crickets. Danny King, I know that you were weighing in on the situations in Minneapolis and in Portland. So the floor is yours.
Yeah. So the state of Minnesota actually has a top-notch investigative arm. 4 OIS is very experienced, Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. Those guys are locked and cocked, the ladies and gentlemen over there. They are an entity of the state. If Tim Walz is saying what he's saying, first off, you don't want people messing in your investigation. OISs are very critical. They're important. It affects what happens with the officer. It affects what happens with the agency, any criminal charges, so on and so forth. And so you want to be very careful as to who you let in and what their purpose is. I've done joint investigations before. It's always somewhat rocky because people are looking out for their interests. When I say that, they're not trying to cover things up. They're just making sure that their job gets done. Even between an internal investigation and a criminal investigation, you're going to have tension between people within the same agency to make sure that the investigation takes place in accordance with whatever that team's objective is. So if Tim Walz is condemning it, and make no mistake, anyone who says, I watched the video, this is a crime, and they're making their assumptions or their conclusions based just on that video is woefully wrong, right? You think like they need to be disregarded. You cannot watch a video and come to a conclusion. It just cannot happen. Every time I've done it, I have been smacked in the face. And, even if I give a few pointers, people will call and I'll say, well, did this happen? Did this happen? Because that's why you may have seen what you saw. They go, no, that's not what happened. Oh, okay. And then you get corrected. So I'm not surprised that the feds won't let him in. The city of Minneapolis, I'm unsure of their investigative capabilities, but I will tell you this: shootings in and around shootings in and around vehicles is extremely controversial, and next to no one knows how to do it. And what the things you're looking for. You've already seen in the popular media, the various issues that people are talking about is you just jumped out of the way, the person was escaping, so on and so forth. So law enforcement doesn't understand shootings around vehicles, and the public certainly doesn't understand it themselves.
Thanks. Chief Schultz.
I tell you, I have been a little reluctant to do a lot of reading about these shootings because the misinformation and twisted information is so prevalent. And I just point out a few. There was an attorney that made a Facebook post that said, he was obviously out of policy because police officers are taught never to shoot at a moving vehicle. That's not true. Some former government officials said that, they should have de-escalated. That was not a de-escalation situation. It just wasn't. I mean, man, step out of the car. Let's talk about this. That couldn't happen. So that's somebody that didn't know what they were talking about. And then somebody else quoted the federal use of force standard, that deadly force has to be the last resort, that exclusion, everything else, every other option has to be excluded. Now, technically, that is the federal standard, and thank God the George Floyd Act did not pass, because that would have imposed that standard on all of law enforcement. That was a Biden era post George Floyd policy change, and certainly it should be an extreme situation when we use deadly force. We all know that. But to say that you have to anticipate all the other hundreds of possibilities of maybe I could have done this, that is not legally necessary. And then some other commentator said, asked the question, an NPR reporter said, well, we understand that officer in the Minneapolis situation had an encounter with a vehicle in the past, but you can't use that to make your decision now. And I'm like, no, you use your experience and your training. And if having a bad experience with a vehicular assault is part of your experience, and you've looked at that and done an after action and thought about that, and what am I going to do next time? That's absolutely part of the thinking process, subconsciously, if not consciously. And for the and it was interesting to watch. The Portland thing was particularly frustrating because they had this phalanx of everybody that wanted to get a soundbite and a picture in the media. I mean, there was like the Mormon Tabernacle Choir behind the speakers there, and they all wanted their moment. And they were all talking about stuff as though they knew what happened. Well, let me tell you, they didn't know what happened. We don't absolutely know all of the things that happened in the Minneapolis shooting. Kristi Noem didn't know. The Governor Walz didn't know. We can talk in general, and you've had some of the best commentators in the world on the show this week on these issues. But I'm on the B team. I would say I'm up there in terms of force analysis. And unless you know trajectories and physics and environment and crowds and videos and the distortions that can happen with video and the distortions that can happen in the thinking and crisis response, we won't know until all of those charts and graphs and analysis and interrogations and video reviews are done. And even then, can we know what that officer knew or felt he knew? And, we don't have to be right when we make these decisions. Even taking a life, we don't have to be right. It's great if we are. We only have to be reasonable. That's the Fourth Amendment standard.
Good point. And I didn't throw this in, but you said something, Chief, that kicked in. I remember that in Oregon, the Attorney General, like you said, Dan Rayfield already announced on social media that the office is open to they're opening a formal investigation on the shooting of the feds. And then we got Governor Tina Kotek is that we are all shaken outraged by yet another terrible, unnecessary, violent, event. So they're already throwing the investigation and the officers, under the bus. But guys, commercial break. We'll be right back. All right, guys, introducing Aero Precision or Aero Defense by Aero Precision at aeroprecisionusa.com, a beacon of durability, dependability, and all-American craftsmanship in the realm of duty rifles. And yes, we're talking about long guns. They're born from an aerospace engineering company, so these guys know what they're doing. And Aero Defense by Aero Precision demands perfection because settling for anything less is not an option when your life is on the line. Visit aeroprecisionusa.com for a lineup that matches every discipline because they basically have something for everybody. And back since 1994, they've been quietly leading the AR builder parts domain, but now they're making waves in the complete rifle arena with Solus bolt actions. And that's not all. Their M4E1 Pro and Mod 4 handguards, they hit the market already at aeroprecisionusa.com, the embodiments of duty rifle excellence that's now being tailored for the civilian customer. That means you can start getting your hands on the Primo stuff. And they also have an M5 AR 3-weight platform. Spectacular. Don't settle for less when you can have the best. aeroprecisionusa.com. All right, guys, we've got 4 minutes before we come back to the radio portion of the show. And I think that we're doing good, and I want to talk, when we come back, there's a lot of people. There's so many things running through my head. It's hard to get it out to say, in proper order. So what I'm seeing is that, so we have a show, as the chief already alluded to yesterday, and we've got some of the best professionals in the industry that really know this stuff, especially Von Kleem from Force Science. And everybody is hesitant to make a call on this, as they should be, as Danny knows, because this is what Danny does. This is in his wheelhouse, these investigations and stuff, and working with Critical Incident Review. But the other side's not doing that. Even we left and we were talking about, Tim Waltz and Jacob Frey, the mayor, and the police chief, Brian O'Hara. And now over in Oregon on the Portland side, they're doing the same exact thing. They're not hesitating to get it out there. So the issue that I have and that I'm dealing with, I do a post on social media on LinkedIn. Out of all the social media outlets, that's probably, in my opinion, one of the most conservative ones, with the most reasonable, level-headed people. Because these guys are, they're business people, they're executives, they're this, they're that. And I'll tell you, it's created a bit of a firestorm on LinkedIn. And all I said is that I felt this shoot, I didn't say definitively, but I thought it was probably going to be justified just based off of what I could see and what I was aware of at the time. And that is before the video showing clearly that the officer was hit from the front and pushed back and dragged before he even fired, before that was even available. It would be nice to be, but it's kind of, you need to wait until the investigation's over. But at the same time, people that form these premature, decisions in their head, and then it's easier, first impressions are easy to get, but they're hard to get rid of, right? It's just like once people form that opinion, right or wrong, it's hard to get rid of. And so they're listening to all these people. How people can listen to Tim Waltz after all the lying that he's done and misrepresentations and stuff, and Jacob Frey, I don't know. But that's what I'm just trying to prevent people from getting to the point where they come to that conclusion. Just wait till all that evidence comes out. But in order to do that, I kind of felt like I had to say, you know what, it's probably going to be justified. But you're right, Chief. We don't know what's running through the officer's mind, which is pretty important, or what he was aware of. But
and really at this point, the facts do not matter. In the public's eye, the facts don't matter from the left and the right.
Yeah, and we just don't have a lot of control over who they listen to, and so it just comes down at this point. I'm just begging people, please just be smart. Don't fall into what they want you to fall into. Don't come to those conclusions based on stupidity. Make educated decisions. And if you don't know, and we're the experts that are telling you, guys, we know our look. I'm on the B team or maybe the C team because I didn't do this for a living, like Danny and Von Kleem and your cohort over there with Critical Incident Review, Jamie Borden, Danny. But we know enough to know that this is probably going to be justified. But there's things that we simply don't know where we can't conclusively say that. But I could very easily see how it would be justified based off of what I'm seeing. It's more leaning that way than the other way for me. But just by knowing that it could be justified, people should just put the brakes on and say, okay, we need to wait and see what happens instead of, now we got this thing going on in Portland the next day just because of this being ramped up.
If you just assume a certain set of facts that she charged the officer, then yeah, if it was that simple, then it would appear to be a reasonable use of force. But as we know, it's oftentimes more complex than that.
True. Guys, 4 seconds. Here we go. Back to radio. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com. My name is Chip the Block. I'm your host. We've got Dr. Joel Schultz, retired police chief, and also Officer Danny King. He's with FloridaPatrolman.com and also with Critical Incident Review. We're talking about a sensitive topic here, but we're talking about not only Minneapolis, but we're talking about the ICE shooting also in Portland as well that happened yesterday. And, Danny and Dr. Joel have been adding in some very important stuff. I think it's important, even though I know we've got other stories on the table, we're getting ready to head into the weekend. And I don't know, with all the misinformation going on out there, which Danny's alluded to, I don't want people doing stupid things or making bad decisions or just coming up with a wrong thought process, and it gets ingrained. And then, 2 months from now, when the information comes out that should totally change their mind, they're resistant to do that because for 2 months they've been under the wrong impression that's filled with, unverified, unvetted data. Chief Schultz, I know you were talking with the commercial break.
I think the political reality is that the antagonists with the leftist propaganda in Oregon and in Minnesota are making some headway into the public. So their narratives are being nibbled and accepted and bit by bit by more and more of public, and that frightens me. Walz was bold enough to say that he was going to deploy his National Guard against federal officers. That's crazy talk. But maybe it's time to at least examine tactics, because obviously the OPSEC, operational security, in the planning stage, has had monumental failures with the protesters and the people that are doing intel against the operations, and the force protection element of a mission. We're going to have to do something different to protect the officers that are engaged in these things. You can't just be so mission focused that you forget that one of your missions is to protect your people so that you can accomplish the mission. And so we've seen some things there. And maybe it's time, and it pains me to say this, and I'm sure it would be manipulated, but at least to say, maybe we need to negotiate with local law enforcement to say, what really are you going to be doing while we're out there? It galls me to no end to hear somebody like Walt say, we want to be involved in the investigation. Well, you've already told the feds you don't want to have anything to do with the operation. You don't want to have anything to do with enforcing the law. But if something goes south, which is partly our responsibility because we did not assist as we morally, ethically, legally should have, but now we want to investigate it. I noticed that the chief in Portland, in his portion of the press conference, was really careful to say, we're going to be doing what we need. We're going to be present during the investigative process, but we didn't have anything to do with immigration enforcement. So he's walking a political line, to keep his job. And I know it's tough. I've tried to straddle that line before, and I fell off the fence both times. Then he has to listen to these other government officials in Portland saying, well, this was murder. And, and by the way, the two Venezuelan gang member traffickers that were shot in Portland had already been involved in a shooting. That violence didn't attract anybody's attention. But when they were apprehended after resistance, that somehow was gun violence and something that deserves criminal charges. The hypocrisy and I understand the conservative commentators have to get in there and say their presuppositions because the politicians and the media that are anti-ICE have such a loud and strong voice. But it's too bad, as you said, Chip, that at least I hope our listeners and viewers, your listeners and viewers, I can't say I possess them, but are stay open-minded. And, when people ask me, what do you think about this thing? I said, I don't know. We don't know all the facts. I can give you some general things about shooting at vehicles and about assault and about deadly force and about weapon use and about reaction time. And I can talk in generalities, but we don't know how all that's going to be applied to this particular thing until we get the hundreds of pages of documents that will perhaps be presented in court. And by the way, I know you've talked about this before, Chip, and I have too. There's no such thing as law enforcement absolute immunity. Qualified.
I read
qualified,
that.
Yes.
Yeah. So somebody looked. I didn't put it in there because I didn't want to get it out there in a conversation going. But that's fine. But we should probably kill that off now. And I believe it was the Tim Waltz article, or there were two Tim Waltz articles on this. They had quoted the feds. And I believe it was the DOJ or someone. I don't think they gave a name, but they said that the feds were saying that the officer was going to get absolute immunity, which is hogwash. That is reserved for like judges and prosecutors. We get qualified immunity, and you only get it if you qualify for it, and you've got to go to the court to qualify for it. And it's not even on the table at this point, because I suspect there's not going to be any criminal investigation that, or actually qualified immunity is really a civil component for mostly civil investigations. But
right.
But anyhow, that was just told, and that's another reason why I don't believe anything comes out of Tim Waltz's mouth if that was in fact from his mouth, which I think that it was in that article that it was released. Danny, to kind of wrap this up. I know that I put out the new video. The video was out there from a distance, but someone has zoomed in. It is distorted a little. Now you can still see that it's the cop and stuff, and it shows what happened from a much better angle. So there were initially one video out that you couldn't really see squat. There was another video that you could see what went down, but the officer trying to get in the car that tried to extract the driver, the female driver, he was in the way of the shooting officer, and so that's video number 2. And video number 2, which showed me enough where I thought that this is probably going to be justified. You see the female in the car, she backs up initially. They're still trying to extract her. Her vehicle tires are rotated all the way to the left. And the cop that ends up shooting her comes around from the other side, from the right side, the passenger side, that walks around the front. And when he's in front of the vehicle, then she, if she steps on the gas, she's going to go forward to the left, not towards him. But at some point before she steps on the gas, she rotates the tires to the right, which means she would have hit him. Now, I don't know if he was aware of that or not, but it's a good possibility that when he walked in front of the car, he looked at the tires and said, hey, they're pointing towards the left and stuff. But then he drew, and then you actually see from the new body camera where they zoom in, even though it's distorted, you can see that she ends up accelerating. He's got his hand on the hood, and she's pushing him backwards and dragging him, and then he ends up shooting, but she actually hits him with the vehicle. And it's like, I saw that video, I'm thinking, crap, that's not what happened. I doubted that it was a legit video. I posted on LinkedIn. I've already got people saying, is that really the real video? And some guy said, no, it's not the same video. Well, guess what? It's not the same video. It's the same exact incident, though. I even looked at the cars that I saw lined up along the street, and I said, I don't remember those cars being there. I compared it to the other video. Guess what? That big old white cargo van with the big window in the back, and it is the same sequence, the same event, the same vehicles there, the same backdrop. Everybody's in the proper place. I'm convinced that, and I believe. I mean, I can't say emphatically, but it's the same. It's the same freaking incident. It's a legit video, and it's a little distorted because they had to zoom in from a distance. But people are discounting that, so we're just trying to get all the information out there. Final words on this, Danny?
Yeah, you know what?
Well, let me
so much video.
Go
ahead.
I only need to interrupt you because I'm on a laptop and just not plugged in, and I'm probably going to disappear because I'm going to run out of battery power. So it's going to be your show here in a minute.
Okay.
But I just want to say that, every police shooting is an anomaly. With about 1 million cops out there, maybe 750,000, 800,000, we don't know, and how many tens of thousands of federal agents we have out there, and maybe a 1,000 shootings. You have maybe 1 million contacts a day by police officers. and you hear commentators say, well, it seems like more and more shootings. No, it's a very rare thing. And particularly when you're dealing with violent criminals as ICE has been. So.
Well, thank you, Chief. I think we came to the limit of his internet ability. Danny King, any closing words on this one?
Yeah. So one of the things that has to happen, it's very technical to conduct this investigation. But there's various videos out there. There's drone video that's out there. Excuse me. There's not drone videos out there. There's a freeze frame of a drone video. And if you watch the video from the initial video that's released, she does cut her vehicle, cut her tires, just like you're talking about. But when she does so, she essentially backs up, and then at that point, she aims the car at the ICE agent. So he's standing off what appears to be the front right of the car, not in front of it. But so if he's standing here, what essentially happens is she throws it in reverse and then aims it at him, then cuts the wheel towards him. So, the question that people use.
Hold that thought. Commercial break, guys. We'll be right back. Here we go. All right, guys, time to talk about GunLearn at gunlearn.com. And as law enforcement officers, we deal with guns every day, but it's what we don't know about them that gets us in the trouble. Injuries, civil lawsuits, accidental discharges, misidentifications, lost prosecutions, and also disciplinary issues. But gunlearn.com, they have your back. You can quickly become extremely firearm knowledgeable by simply learning 14 training modules from the convenience of your home or your office, or by attending a live seminar at gunlearn.com. You can also become a safe, accurate, and competent certified firearm specialist like our very own Captain Brett Bartlett and also attorney Ken Affianco. Now, the course has had huge success in raising the bar of firearm knowledge, and GunLearn has been a trusted source since way back in 2011 by gun manufacturers, federal agencies, forensic organizations, and police departments nationwide. Now, the founder, Dan O'Kelly, has got a deal for you. If you have your own agency, you can actually host a seminar for absolutely no cost. Fantastic opportunity. Go to gunlearn.com. All right, we got 2 minutes before we come back to the radio portion of the show. And we lost the chief, but I think he was able to get out what he said. And for people, look, we're on the stream. Chief Schultz, when he logged in before the show went live, he's had power failures. He was in a church at a church or church basement, just to be able to get internet to be able to do the show. But apparently he didn't bring a laptop charger with him because he ran out of juice on the laptop. So once again, Danny King is saving the day. I will never hear the end of this. He will be calling me for the next week saying, remember when I bailed you out when Chief Schultz couldn't stick around for the whole show? Yeah. We got Paul Bogart, who I used to work with, was my corporal. I see him on Facebook. And yes, you will see me Monday night at the FOP, Corporal. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. And Alan Inman on Facebook. Tim Waltz is doing everything to take the focus off of him, to a point where Joel said, Chief Joel Schultz, that Tim wants to activate National Guard. Good guy against good guy. Crazy. Less politics and Monday night quarterbacks and more working together. I can't argue with anything that Alan Inman said. Hey, good. Hey, we're supposed to be doing a gold skip card giveaway too, and I haven't seen enough entries yet. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm just going to put a little ticker at the bottom of the screen just to remind people that we're doing a gold gift card giveaway. If we have enough entries, and if you haven't won in the last 90 days, just type in the word GALLS, GALLS, and give us your email address in order to win that free $50 gold gift card giveaway. And I would love to give one out on here on Friday. So, and we're almost 10 seconds out from coming back to radio. So let's do that. Go back to radio. We'll wrap this up, and we'll hopefully get a video story in as well. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip the Block, and I'm your host. We're joined by Officer Danny King. And yes, we've been talking about the ICE shooting involving Minneapolis and the new one involving, yes, Portland. And, you know, I'm just looking here. Before we just came back from radio, I saw a post from John Spalding. Maybe the officers should throw tampons at the criminals. And that, of course, is a reference to Tampon Tim Waltz, the governor of. I thought you're not smiling, Danny. I thought that was pretty funny, but you know myself. So
I'm not here for the politics of it, Chip.
Okay. Well, I don't know if that was political. Well, maybe a little political. All right. Thanks for entering the contest, Alan. Appreciate it. And actually, it looks like George Ishak as well, and some other guys are entering that contest. So good deal, guys. Are you any final words you want to say? Are you ready to move on to another component?
Well, you know what?
King?
I'm not sure what I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, but you know, it's just one of those things that understand there's people that have different perspectives on it, but it is not as simple as your perspective. It just doesn't work out that way.
You were talking about what is necessary in the investigation and how it's just not a easy peasy kind of investigation in order to get down to the nuts and bolts of what actually happened.
And then at the end of the day, it comes down to the perception of the officer. Right. So the officer essentially has two choices. One, wait and see what happens, in which case he may not have gotten run over. But the second is he gets run over, right? In any part of him, he gets seriously injured. And so if the chance is there that he's going to get seriously injured, now I'm talking about in general, not in this case, then it is common for law enforcement officers to use deadly force. Whether he should have moved, could have moved, any of those other things, that is something that's yet to be determined. But, you know, like I said, it's way more complex. There's a lot of people out there screaming and yelling and frustrated and hurt, and that's normal. That's okay. But once you get past that, you have to put that to the side and then critically analyze the case. And until you have all the facts, I can't look at that video and tell you that it's reasonable. I can't look at that video and tell you that the officer should have done X, Y, Z. So just take a step back, pause and breathe. And then very shortly, I'm sure there's going to be some type of explanation or documentation that comes out about it.
Yep. I totally agree. Guys, watching the show, I know there's a lot of commentary going on out there. You're watching the show for a reason. I have 30 years law enforcement experience, and I've got the best guys in the world on the show, including Danny King. So if you're watching us because, you know, hopefully you're watching us because the experts are on the show giving you expert advice. And even when the experts, we could come here and say, look at our experience, and we're telling you this is a completely justified shooting and it's all above board of this and that. And although I'm leaning towards it probably going that way, you know, we're not doing that. We're saying wait until the outcome of the investigation. We could do what the other side's doing, and because our experience level, you know, we know what we're talking about, and especially the guys I have on the show that know more than I do. So, but we're not saying believe that it's a good shoot. We're just saying wait until we get all the facts. But what I am telling you is just that I believe it's going to end up being a justified shoot. And I don't see there's certainly nothing definitive saying that it was a bad shoot. So anybody drawing conclusions, like I know we have a user in here saying, the officer, shouldn't shot. Well, Chad Barnes supports law enforcement, but we got John Spalding, he loves our law enforcement officers, but I was looking for one. There was one guy that said that, he definitely, shouldn't have shot. Oh, I got Rudy Scala. He was wrong the fire. I'd love to hear why you think he was wrong the fire, because he positively got hit by the car and he was being pushed and drugged back. So I'd love to hear why you think he was wrong the fire. But anyhow, guys, it's time to move on. So Danny, I'm gonna let you pick our next topic. We got about 5 minutes. And we got that domestic violence call that left a civilian and 3 officers injured and the suspect dead. Is that something that you'd be interested in covering, or did you have a chance to look at that one?
I looked at it briefly, and I also looked at the Henderson PD. I know the sergeant personally, great guy. I know exactly where that OIS happened.
Oh, really? So which one would you prefer to cover?
Well, let's talk about let's talk about the Henderson PD one.
Okay. All right. And if we get done really quick, we can, I mean, if we do that within 2.5, we can maybe throw in the other one. But rumble.com, this is Butter, our favorite law enforcement video channel. Henderson officers, they shoot a suspect who stole a front loader of all things, tried to run over police vehicles. So look, I'm going to do this quickly in the hopes that we can maybe get 2 stories in. But we got Henderson Police Department, and this is in this is not
Henderson,
Las
Nevada.
Vegas. Where's Nevada? Okay. Well, you know, they got
Nevada. It's Nevada. It's not Nevada.
Oh, Nevada. Okay, Nevada. Okay, well, they have Henderson LV, and I don't know what the LV stands for. So is that
Las
supposed
Vegas.
to be like Las Vegas area or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm in Henderson. Henderson is one of 3 cities that make up the Vegas Valley. I'm in Henderson right now.
I've never seen them not use the abbreviations for like the state. But anyhow, this guy, look, he's walking down the street. He jumps a fence and he hot wires a this construction vehicle, this front loader, and then he drives it down the street. And now we got a female security guard there that gets into it with him, but he threatens her with a screwdriver. We got a female cop that rolls up, gets out of her car, and she's trying to get the guy to stop, and he starts driving at her, and she ends up firing, I believe it's like 5 rounds at this guy. And then he goes and he drives and he starts hitting her car. We got a male officer, I think it's a sergeant, that pulls up, and he ends up shooting at the guy. The guy ends up getting hit a couple times. The cop cars on top of each other, being lifted by the front loader, they're destroyed. And they end up having to go in to grab the guy, and he's been hit twice, shot twice. He still doesn't want to come in. When they're trying to extract him, they all fall like 7 feet down on the freaking hard pavement. Yeah. And now we got officers going to the hospital, and it was a 2007 Kawasaki front loader. Danny King.
Well, I tell you, just like getting run over by vehicles and pulling guys out of front loaders, it's something that law enforcement officers aren't really trained for. It's just that they're expected to do. Imagine you get this call, you see the front loader, you stop, and then all of a sudden he's trying to run you over or run the car over. That's just the kind of bizarre nature of what law enforcement is faced with every day. Now, I can tell you, I worked for the Henderson PD for 24 years. Wow. I know this officer. I know the sergeant personally. I don't know the officer. She came on after I retired, I believe. But I can tell you that I've never been trained, nor have I ever trained anyone to deal with this particular situation. You just try and apply these rules of thumb to get this person into custody, and it comes to a point in which you can no longer allow this dangerous behavior to continue because it's going to hurt someone. It's going to hurt the officers. It's going to hurt the public. And then the last thing, one of the comments I saw was the number of rounds that were fired. Well, you have to recognize that law enforcement uses rounds that are designed to not overpenetrate. So you're trying to hit a moving target, not easy to do. As soon as that round hits anything, it essentially expands and it's ineffective. So shooting through glass, usually not that effective. So like I said, the sergeant's a rock solid guy. And you just can't ram a police car, especially with a front loader. So that investigation's underway.
All right. Hey, this next story here, and Alan Inman, congratulations on winning the free goals, $50 goals gift card. I'll give that to you at the end of the show, and I'm going to do a screenshot right now just so I have your information. Hey, this next story, there's a lot going on, but if we don't cover it now, we never will. Rumble.com again, this is Butter. Domestic violence, a DV call leaves a civilian, 3 Rochester police officers injured. Here's what happens, guys. We have a DV call, and the cops get there, and the complainant inside, hey, this guy's trying to break in the side of the house. So we got 2 cops that go to the side of the house. It's narrow. There's like a fence, and you got the side of like this, it's like wood or siding, and you've got a bad guy back there. He's got his hands in his pockets. So you got one cop dealing with him. Another cop comes up behind that cop. It's narrow. And he just says, hey, turn around and put your hands behind your back. But no, there's no alarm going off about, hey, hands out of the pockets, or let me see what what you have in your pockets or whatever in your hands. So the guy pulls his hands out of his pocket when the cop goes hands on, and the dude starts firing shots. But both cops get hit. Well, the one cop, the first cop in body cam, he goes like running across the street. I'm hit. I've been shot. And then he turns around and comes back and he fires like 3 strings of fire. Or I should say 3 shots. And I'm thinking, who's he shooting at? And we're coming up at the end of the show. I'm going to finish this off. There was a civilian that pulled out a gun and started aiming it and firing towards police officers. And so I think that was who he was shooting at. The civilian ended up getting hit. we have another officer that finds this guy. The bad guy escapes after shooting the 2 cops, and they catch him walking down a sidewalk, and cop tells him, take your hands out of your pocket again. Well, he does. He's got a gun, and he shoots that cop, and then he ends up getting shot and killed. So bad guy shot and killed, 3 cops shot and injured, civilian shot and injured who decided to pull a gun. And I don't know what that was about, whether they're helping out the cops, but they were aiming at the cops. Danny, 15 seconds.
Yeah, it just shows you the chaos of it, right? It's easy to watch the video, kind of sequence it and figure it out. But remember, the patrol officers screaming in there, they're getting all these different types of updates that people are shot, and it's just chaos. It's sad.
Perfect.
But it's
Calls.com, CompliantTechnologies.com, Aero Precision USA, Gunlearn.com, Medicare.life, Safeguard Recruiting, 2 Bells and Fisher, OrlandoBass.com. Thank you, Danny King, for being on the show. We'll see you guys back Monday, 12 noon Eastern. And we're going to keep it going for another minute and a half just to keep the satellite company, happy. But anyhow, so that is the end of the satellite portion of the show. We're still streaming, and we have over 1 million followers, and we're about to get another like 250,000 on another channel. So stay tuned for that, guys. That's exciting stuff. Final words to our listening audience, Danny. You know what I'm going to do, Danny? I'm going to have producer Will put together the video number on this Minneapolis thing, video number 2 that came out that pretty much you could see enough to where I couldn't really tell whether the vehicle hit the cop or not that was behind the cop blocking his view, but I could see the cop, I could see the one that got hit, I could see his gun, I could see him firing, but I couldn't really I couldn't really see it. I couldn't even really maybe part of his head and the gun, that was it. The other guy was blocking him. I'm going to do a split screen of that video and the other video and try to sync them and show them going down at the same time so people can actually see that these are the same, not the same video, 2 different videos, but the same incident. And I'm going to have those side by side. And then maybe have a third frame with Tim Waltz, Jacob Frey, the mayor, and then Brian O'Nolan or whatever his name is, the chief, saying that, this was not justified. The cops did this, the cops didn't do that, and maybe that'll help the light bulb go off in some people's heads. I don't know. At least on the possibility that
there's actually 3 things that happen when you know how something occurred, and it's what's called hindsight bias. And everyone knows what hindsight bias is. When you know the full detail of the facts, you are unaware of the idea that this wasn't knowable to the people at the time. And so what ends up happening is that you believe that this is the only outcome that could possibly happen, right? She could have continued to drive backwards. She could have put it in park and got out of the car. And those are more realistic options than driving forward. So, but you believe the only real outcome that everyone should have known about was her driving forward towards the officer. And then because we believe that that's the only real outcome, we then believe that the officer knowingly engaged in dangerous behavior, right? Only real outcome, and he chose to stand there. So the third thing that happens, and the most important thing is that now we blame the officer for engaging in dangerous behavior. And it happens completely subconsciously, and it happens just that fast. And so everyone honestly believes that this officer is in the wrong no matter what because of that bias. And it's not until you put your emotion, you put those other things to the side and recognize, oh, there's many outcomes that could have happened here. And the officer probably didn't foresee that. And especially the idea that she backed up and turned the car into his direction. Then you see things start to change. So if you have that video, especially if you can download it and go frame by frame, you can see that she backs up, points the car in his direction, then cuts the wheels in his direction. And then you see him start to move from what is now in front of the vehicle because she pointed it at him, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And then he starts to move, and he only gets to the front of left headlight, the front right as he's facing it, before she starts to accelerate. So the sequencing of that thing is way more important. And remember, there's a lot of cognitive biases that's going on. That's
good. Excellent. I couldn't say it better. Excellent. Gave me something to think about. But that last part you just said, that was the best part of the show. Yeah. So people watch.
Yeah, I waited until everyone was gone.
Yeah, people that are watching the stream, it's a good soundbite, but it helps, break it down when you're watching. At least look, there's so many more components, and obviously what's going on upstairs in the officer's head, anyhow, which can make all the difference. But video, the upside with this day and age, information is just out there like almost immediately, right? The downside is that before, the experts, the people that knew their stuff, would review it and critique it and document what they take from it. But that doesn't happen anymore. You've got all these people that just don't know any better and can't help themselves that weigh in, and they just don't know. They just don't know what they don't know, and they weigh in. And then we got people that aren't smart enough to just wait and see, and they're listening to these other people and taking their word for it. And the thing that really bugs me, it's like the little boy that cried wolf. You know, people that do that, people keep listening to them, which is the craziest thing. You know, they should discount these people and just say, you know, look, I remember what you said a year ago, 6 months ago. I'm not listening to anything else that comes out of your mouth, you know. And but that they keep getting the microphone, people keep listening to them, and it just drives me crazy. So anyhow, it's hard to undo the damage, but
It is.
thanks for making it possible, Danny.
You are certainly welcome, sir.
Well, look, I'm going to kill the stream for you guys, and I've got a Gulls gift card to email as well. So, guys, streamers, MVS over on Rumble, and all the guys over there, and MVS brought up some good points. I'm going to make sure that you get that video I was talking about MVS too, so you can watch that. LinkedIn users, everybody on Facebook and YouTube, thanks so much for watching the show. We'll look for you guys back next week on Monday, 12 noon Eastern. We're going to be doing live shows all next week. Then we're headed to the SHOT Show, and we're planning on doing some live shows from SHOT Show. So stay tuned for that. And thanks for watching, the guys, for the support.